AA games are growing rapidly and we are loving the new releases. It's awesome to see the smaller studios making such fine games and giving tough competition to big companies. In this video, I have made a list of 12 AA games that are better than most AAA titles. So let's look at the first game on our list, Vanisher's Ghost of New Eden. When you first look at this game, it's going to feel like a God of War experience, but with a more dramatic and dialogue-focused gameplay. Vanishers is a game that is less about action and more story-driven, with you solving the mysteries via talking to NPCs. I know that some of you will say that the game does feature combat and boss battles, however, it's not quite perfect, and I just feel that there aren't many variations. The story is centered around a couple whose main job is to banish evil spirits and help the people. The game introduces a great concept where you can use your wife's ghost powers throughout the gameplay. One of the most standout features is how you can shape the storyline and make choices. In certain missions, you will have to make a choice about whether to send the souls of NPCs for resurrection or ascension. I really like the idea of giving the players an option to resurrect the wife or go with the flow and choose the appropriate ending. Now, as I said that the game is more story-driven with less combat variations, especially not at the level of God of War, I would still recommend playing this game, as I'm sure you will definitely get hooked at least for the first few hours. It's one of those games where you will be finding secrets about several NPCs and sort of judging their souls. Honestly, I do agree that the game kind of gets boring every now and then, but still, if you have played the major AAA titles and are looking for something new, then Vanishers will be your best choice. It's awesome to see such games to be made by AA studios. Nevertheless, I'm confident that if you play games like Plague Tale, then you won't get bored in this game and the ending adds more depth to the storyline.
Now you're ours.
Sifu. I still don't know why some people say that this game is boring. Sifu is one of those games that you can play anytime without being too focused on the storyline. It's one of those action games where you just need to boot up your console and start smacking enemies. Sure, there are often when the game feels repetitive, but it's only because of you dying a lot of times. Sifu is about learning the mechanics and perfecting dodge or parry. The game introduces a mind-blowing concept where you will age every time you die, and the more you age, the effective your attacks will become by compromising the overall health. To this day, I admire the developers for making such a fine game with zero flaws. I know that there are some players who call this game boring and repetitive, but you must understand that the core focus of Sifu is to die and get better. So, if you are dying several times and quitting the game, then you can't say that it's because of the repetitive missions. It means that you lack skill and needs more practice. I'm one of those players who definitely had a tough time beating the game in my first playthrough, but after that everything becomes quite easy. Low-key, I recommend dodging the attacks instead of parrying in case you are having a hard time. Now, there are so many great things that make Sifu great, but my favorite will always be the combat and weapons.
Drop your weapon. Not so tough, eh?
It was such an awesome feeling to use different kinds of martial arts combined with several weapons. Also, it's nice to see that every area is different and every final boss has their own movesets. Sifu is not like your usual RPG or a high-level AAA title. It's just a game that brings a refreshing feeling and doesn't complicate things. Your main goal is to beat down the enemies and complete the game while keeping a check on your age, and that's about it. Remnant series. I'm such a huge fan of the Remnant series. When the first part came out, I was overjoyed after seeing such decent gameplay and procedurally generated areas. It was hard to believe that such a great game is made by a AA studio. This is a game that will grasp you in with its action survival mechanics and a huge weaponry. If you haven't played Remnant from the Ashes, then do give it a shot before diving into the sequel. For a lot of us, the original Remnant is so much better in various ways. There is much simplicity in the mechanics. Every gun feels perfect, and the leveling system is just amazing. You will get leveled up quite easily and experiment with different weapons in a short amount of time compared to the sequel. Remnant from the Ashes has a lot of cool boss fights, better world design, and the mods are more interesting. Now, I'm not criticizing anything, but the original feels a lot better. Surely most of the time sequel means that everything is going to be better, but it doesn't happen in every game. Remnant 2 have a lot of drawbacks. However, the game is still a must-play if you're looking for some more Remnant stuff and have completed the original. In my opinion, that's the only reason you should give the sequel a try. The original tests your limits and give you a hardcore experience, whereas in the sequel, you will be dying many times by just falling off the cliff rather than being tested in fights. Nevertheless, both games are perfect in their own way, and it's always nice to see such banger games made in a smaller budget. Hifi Rush.
Let's rock, big boy.
This time I'm talking about something new and different than your usual action RPG stuff. Hifi Rush is a visually impressive game that showcases so many stunning scenes combined with an awesome soundtrack. If I have to summarize everything about why this game is great, then I will give the sole credit to the soundtrack, music, and the overall concept. Nothing feels more thrilling than listening to a perfectly suited music in the background. You will be amazed after seeing how well the developers have chosen suited soundtracks for every battle. Now, the game does look like those anime-style experiences, but it's nothing like Tales of Arise, Scarlet Nexus, and other similar JRPGs. Hifi Rush is a fast-paced hack-and-slash game where your only goal is to complete missions and move forward while slicing your way through enemies and jumping on the right platforms, ultimately leading to the boss fight. There are so many of us who played the game and gave it a 5-star because it brought a fresh experience where you don't have to complicate things and learn about what's going in the story. You can rather have a Pepsi with some snacks and enjoy the game on your couch. Honestly, these days when so many games are releasing with usual concepts such as open world, RPG, action adventure, it's nice to see small developers introducing something different and enjoyable. Hango Works did a fine job creating Hifi Rush, which is a masterpiece in its own way. If you're in a mood for some lighthearted action combined with jokes and humor, then Hifi Rush is right up your alley.
Anyone see the guy that did this? That's the defect! What? No, I was just...
RoboCop. I know, a big nostalgia smack. We all love RoboCop and have been fans for a long time. It's such a delight for us fans that the developers made a new RoboCop game and gave us a chance to have an all-out blast. Not gonna lie, if you're not familiar with RoboCop, then I'm not sure how much enjoyment you will get out of this. Though it's no doubt that if you want to give this a try, then Rogue City will be a good choice.
Get cover!
In fact, the entire game is about FPS shooting, so even if you're not familiar with the whole RoboCop concept, then you will still feel amazing by just shooting enemies and blasting stuff. There are explosives barrels everywhere. The feeling of just grabbing enemies and throwing them is something next level. It's a lighthearted experience that is mostly about having fun while shooting and killing enemies. I won't recommend diving into it if you are hoping for some deep storyline. Now, my only favorite feature are the weapons. I mean, it's awesome to see RoboCop using different weapons ranging from handgun to shotgun to even an AK-47. Finally, the voice acting deserves some appreciation as well because it enhances the enjoyment. I hope the studio continues this series and we get more amazing RoboCop games in the future. Stray has got to be the most indifferent controversial pick. You could say that there's two types of audience, with the first one being who appreciate the new in-game concept of this game, whereas the second type who totally dislikes and calls the game boring or slow-paced. Low-key, I belong to the second type, but then my opinions changed after spending a few hours into this game. Stray is one of those experiences that will hook you in with its weirdly satisfying concept. You will find it amazing to navigate the journey of a cat and seeing the struggles. Now, of course, Stray is not for everyone, especially not for those players who are always on a hunt for some great action filled with guns or adventure. This is a beautiful experience filled with multiple areas and fellow cats. For some players, it'll also going to be a tearjerker game, as every now and then you will feel a bit sad after seeing certain stories and scenes. The game immerses you to see the world from a cat's eye. It's fascinating to see how they jump from one place to another, how they climb the buildings, go through sewers, and much more. Overall, Stay is a perfectly paced adventure that is all about seeing the different environments and getting to know about various stories. The developers did a fine work creating such detailed game with immersive environments. Also, it was such a nice addition to include other fellow cats. You will enjoy various moments of other cats irrespective of the main character. Now, obviously it's no doubt that cat lovers will surely find this game amazing. They can somewhat experience what it's like to be a cat. Hi on Life. Have you ever played with a talking gun? Yep, you heard it right. You have your very own talking weapon. High on Life is a really weird but engaging game that throws in a weird alien world. I mean, I can't describe the world in a perfect way, but it's surely interesting. The opening sequence is great, and the game hooks you in from the start. This might be weird, but I can only think of Ratchet & Clank while playing this game. High on Life is humor and jokes game where everything feels fun and less serious.
Oh shit, here we go. We're gonna have to kill some of these torqued foot soldiers to prove ourselves around here. These people think we're weak. Not on my watch. What are you, some kind of...
There is no major stuff about saving the world or killing the final boss. It's a rather weirdly satisfying fun game that will make you feel like a kid again. I totally loved the levels, interior and exterior details, mechanics, and talking gun. Honestly, this is a prime example of how games should be. If you're in a mood for something similar to Ratchet & Clank or Hifi Rush, then look no further, as High on Life is the best game you could ever ask for.
Okay, you know what? No, we're all gonna die. Not sure why we're still fighting, but we'll just keep going until we...
This FPS comedy is hilarious, and no moment is boring. Everything feels like a mixture of action and jokes with the focus on the players having a good time. I'm hoping that they make a sequel and introduce something more. Imagine what the developers can do with a bigger budget. These are the games that truly showcases the potential of smaller studios.
Okay, I'm not sure what came over me there. I think I got caught up in the moment or something, but hey, good work.
Ghost Runner 2. I have always been a fan of this series. The original game was one of the best experiences I had in a long time. From that point on, I was patiently waiting for the sequel, and I can say that the developers didn't disappoint. Everything is perfect in Ghost Runner 2, and the game even doubles down on the original's achievements. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with the game's concept, then in Ghost Runner 2, you basically have to run around in a sci-fi world and complete missions. The entire game is in first-person mode, and your main goal is to move forward with the help of gadgets or environmental stuff forward. As easy as it sounds, trust me, the game is quite hard. You could say it's somewhat on the same level as Souls games. Enemy AI is highly advanced and will kill you in one shot. Despite all this, there are some major highlights that makes the gameplay engaging and enhanced. The first one is my favorite fast-paced hack N/action. It's such a nice feeling to slash through enemies while jumping from platforms or heights.
Nothing you can't handle, though.
The game gives you complete freedom over killing, so it's always awesome to see enemies getting slashed right and left. Sometimes I cut off their heads, or other times I just slash through their waist or legs. The second major highlight are the visuals and soundtrack. Being a game that is mostly about navigating through dark or kind of neon areas, no one could have expected that by the end of the game we will all be thankful for such stunning areas. Also, the soundtrack always adds a thrilling feeling during combat or any fast-paced movement. Finally, I do recommend the game to anyone who is a big fan of the hack N/genre or someone who just wants a decent challenge.
It's,
Bike.
well, not what I expected.
Another Crab's Treasure. This is not your typical game, folks. Crab's Treasure is quite a different game that combines some Souls game mechanics in a lighthearted manner. The game was recently released this year and is definitely not that popular. You could say it's fairly underrated and not many players know about it. Still, if you feel like you want to play a game that is set in an ocean and tasks you with different tasks with a variety of weapons. Now, the most amazing thing about this game are the weapons. Crab's Treasure gives you a similar feeling to Dark Souls, but instead of swords or spears, you will get buckets and fork. The entire game is sort of like your usual third-person Souls game where you will explore and defeat powerful enemies. The gameplay is challenging but rewarding, exploration is fun, and finding new items is the best feature. Another Crab's Treasure is a Souls-like experience set in underwater. Honestly, when I first saw that gamers are calling this game a Souls, I was truly surprised as it felt extremely stupid, but I was so wrong as the game definitely shares a lot of similarities. It won't be wrong to say that if you want to enter the Souls series, then this game will be a good choice and will act as a spin-off. Nevertheless, it's always great to see the developers introducing something new and different. The game is a worthwhile experience that will satisfy the players who love Souls-like genre. Outer Wilds. This is not what you think. If you are someone who thinks that Outer Wilds is boring, then my friend, you're clearly wrong. Sure, the game is kind of slow and an indie experience, but it still has great potential. Just like a few other games on this list, you will need to spend a few hours into this game before it starts to show why it's so awesome. Outer Wilds is a fairly underrated game, even in 2024. What makes the game so impressive is its structure. At first, the game gives nostalgic memories of No Man's Sky, but trust me, it's quite different. Outer Wilds introduces a good concept of supernova, which basically means that you die and everything gets destroyed in every 22 minutes. So you're stuck in this 22-minute time loop while exploring the planets or solar system. Everything is dependent on these 22 minutes, which means that you have to figure out what's going and beat the game in 22 minutes. This shows that the entire game is about exploration because you can't do much and the only way to move forward is to explore and find out the secrets. Low-key, it also reminds me of a few time loop movies. Anyways, the concept is pretty much simple that you have to several new things and die over and over to finally get to know about the supernova. It's a trial and error game. The developers made the game's world highly engaging and filled with diverse environments or aliens. Every moment or exploration feels rewarding. Before we talk about the last game on this list, here are some of the honorable mentions. Starting out with the most difficult underrated game, Cuphead. This is one of those games that will give you 90s vibes, and trust me, the difficulty will make you rage quit several times. The game is quite interesting as it features simple gameplay with engaging mechanics. Cuphead takes several basic ideas and perfects them effectively. It keeps you guessing to see what happens next. Each boss and monster has unique features and special attacks. It provides a completely new feeling with its combined features. The soundtrack of this game should go down in gaming history because it combines different music genres in certain situations. Now, another one we have is Bright Memory. This is a game that offers a lot and doesn't do justice with its overall campaign. Bright Memory has remained my favorite fast-paced game because it's a perfect action game with a very short campaign. Sure, some players want a big storyline, but sometimes it's better to just experience a small all-out package. Loki, the main character, is quite beautiful. It's literally one of those games that you can never hate and will keep wanting to play more. Well, moving on, the next one is What Remains of Edith Finch. The game is as weirdly interesting as the name sounds. It's actually one of my favorite story games and definitely deserves a 10 out of 10 rating. One of the best emotional games made by a AA studio. There isn't much of any action here. It's more of a story with dialogues and cutscenes.
I jumped and I almost got her. I could tell she was getting really tired.
Now, another bonus game is Origami 2. This is your best pick if you're looking for some shinobi stealth action. The game is all about completing each mission in a stealth manner, or you can also choose to go all out. It offers you various methods to tackle different situations. Origami 2 is mostly about assassinating enemies, finding or stealing items. At some point, the missions do feel slightly repetitive, but the whole idea of such linear stealth game is interesting. It's a huge loss to miss out on this game if you are a big fan of ninja games. Combat is another best feature, as it's neither too difficult nor too easy. Everything is seamlessly balanced. Evil West. When I first saw this game, I was literally hooked as the trailer looked highly interesting and full of action. The entire game felt as though it's an action masterpiece with insane powers. However, I couldn't have been more wrong. Evil West is quite different from what it looks. The game surely has some cool powers and a decent combat system, but it almost lacks in other aspects. Now, remember that it's just my own opinion. I felt as though the navigation and dialogues were boring. I was always waiting to engage in combat as the journey felt boring or dead.
That hurt.
Not gonna lie, the story is quite normal. I mean, it's not at the level of some other famous games or make you fall in love it, rather it serves as a perfect base for the gameplay. But still, it's an amazing AA experience. The enemy difficulty in Evil West is carefully adjusted to provide a challenging yet fair gameplay experience. Players will face off against a wide range of enemies, from hordes of zombie monsters to powerful bosses with unique skills. The game is set in a world which is a mixture of Red Dead and God of War. It throws into various locations ranging from deserts to wilderness, caves to mansions, and more. Every area feels good in its own way. I just wish that there could have been more variations. If a sequel releases in the future, then I do hope that the developers perfect everything and make it as a full-blown title with intense combat, deep storyline, engaging dialogues, and interesting areas. Alright, this ends our list of 12 AA games that can give tough competition to major AAA titles. These are the games that the developers have put in a lot of work and made them look completely stunning. Anyways, if you have made it this far, then please subscribe, as I'm close to reaching 16,000 subscribers. That's all for this video. I will see you in the next. Have a good day.